Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 44th episode of the Priest DLC for Cultist Simulator, playing as Harold Davidson. Now, it's a bit of a rushed week for me, so I'm going to do my best not to stumble too much on these videos, but I am going to need a little bit of time to figure out what I'm doing, because if I recall correctly, we had a few moving parts that I need to try and make some sense out of. So as I usually start, let's just take a quick look at the state of the world. So we've got a trembling in the air, the sun flickers like a shadow, dreams ripple behind the surface of mirrors. I must be careful not to drift from the waking world. And I can't recall what triggered this, but with new colors, I have begun to notice colors in the world for which I have no name. In this case, I believe this is going to generate a fascination. Of course, if it doesn't, I'm going to be getting a restlessness for really no reason, but I figure I'm going to assume that this is generating a fascination. The restlessness will turn into dread, which will tranquilize the fascination when the time comes, and we've got a minute before the next event comes. Actually, 2 minutes before the next event comes up, so we should be safe there. We moved on to an expedition, so we are currently in Grunwald's Circus. I don't know if we've passed any of the challenges yet, but the circus folk will be ready to take up arms against us, and the power in the circus, we fear, may be worm-touched. Okay. So the worms in the world will need lantern or moth to suppress the curse. Otherwise, it will not keep us from our goal, but it may trouble us later. Now, we've already got some moth in the party with the raw prophet, so we'll probably just add another moth follower there. And actually, come to think of it, we can get past the watchers with a moth follower as well. So we'll add Sylvia. That's the explore verb taken care of. So we're doing the mood piece for Fleeting Reminiscence. I guess I was trying to extend the life of the Fleeting Reminiscence as well, so I don't really need the dread. In fact, if anything... but the Fleeting Reminiscence only lasts a minute. Okay, so that's why I was doing it this way. So I do potentially run the risk of this. Restlessness turning into dread and not being picked up because of this Fleeting Reminiscence. But I don't know. I'll make the most of what I've got here. Attempting a seduction, right? So we're ignoring our notoriety and trying to get a body for the spider's door. We're already working with that, and we are. Right, and then I was leveling up the lantern influence because of the Season of Visions. Okay, so we know the state of the world now. We are going to go to Foxlily Meadows when I get a chance, and then we're going to have to find some new locations. So this was the land beyond the forest, which means that the forbidden epics aren't enough anymore. We're going to need to level them up. Of course, the challenge with leveling them up is that I have lots of things to use in my study verb right now, so I might wait a little while there. So, sorry to take the time on that, especially if you're watching this in a big, long video, but I need a minute to get it straight in my head. So I think we've got a bit of a game plan in terms of how this is going to be handled. I've intensified this lantern influence, so we've now got a blaze of radiance. Every color has grown bright as new dye, but now all of them begin to bleed towards white. This is a level 10 lantern. Now, if I want, I can use this in some kind of a ritual, but generally for lantern there aren't as many things that I would like to accomplish with that. So let's move on to the catalog of uncharted pleasures. The Dark Gentleman is the only and rather grandiosely identified author of this often copied work. Some pleasures, the formula voluptuous attest, are so intense that they can corrupt the laws of the physical world. This text catalogs some of those instances. This is going to take a little while for me to get everything kind of in the proper shape, but we'll do our best. Okay, so again, forbidden epics are not really what I'm looking for. Now, if memory serves, and in fact, I've got my notebook here. I want to see if I can get some better intelligence. The spider door, except for the previous playthrough, it's definitely one of the more neglected doors for me, because I generally tend to play somewhat nice cultists, or cult leaders. I don't always... oh dear, I'm going to need a minute just to change my notes here. But I generally don't, I don't know, I don't like go out and abduct people, on side. I guess the worst the worst would be, betraying some of the followers, but or the people that I hire. But I mean, the people that I hire, they're already ne'er-do-wells, so I don't feel as bad about that. But generally, I found the Mallory is a little more helpful. I think the Chamber of Ways potentially has some negative consequences, and then I think the Mallory can give you an object, an ingredient. So for now, I'm just going to stick with the Mallory for a little while until I get some evidence that maybe the Chamber of Ways is a bit better for me. Okay, so that would have been good for Forgotten Chronicle. And so this is the ingredient I was talking about. Clearly the secret histories would have been better. In the later operations of the forge, the Madrigard yields to the true Forge of Days, and the essence begins to redden. Someday, perhaps, it will not, but for now, we have this. So I will actually have a use for this item if I need. Last night in the Mansis, I visited the Mallory, from whose fires one does not emerge unchanged. The forge light fell upon me, and my heart boiled when I woke with my blood burnt within me, so that I had to shed it in a cup before it overwhelmed me. And lo, 10 drops of it were not blood, exactly, unless it be the blood of the sun. Perhaps I found the cup, and the blood is not mine, the forge seer's memory. Alright, so I don't have another body for the spider door, so we'll just go back through the stag door. At this point, I'm just trying to get more, some more secret histories that I can eventually level up. And oh, actually that was not true. My minion has returned. So my minion is returned, attended by a prisoner, rendered docile with delight. And I think I got a little extra money for that as well. I won't spend money on the Colors of the Night. I believe I've got some staleness. Excuse me. And yes, this was a fascination. I wish I could have read the text there, but... The sun flickers like a shadow, dreams ripple behind the surface of mirrors. I must be careful not to drift from the waking world. I have not shirked. Look closer, closer still, closer. Keep looking, closer. Now close your eyes. My recent work has been considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. Okay, so let's see what the end result was. It's another glimmering. So this contentment will potentially be helpful if the fleeting reminiscence turns out to be a tricky one. Didn't really make that much in terms of cash, though. I think for the time being, I'm going to content myself with some more services. Oop, but I don't have the passion for it, so we'll just wait a little while. I'll speak to their souls, and if I speak with conviction, their souls may answer me. This is really more about just kind of maintaining my financial position. I may consider doing some commissions, but it's I'm in a bit of an odd spot in terms of just trying to decide exactly where I want to spend my time. Their bewilderment is our opportunity will pass in silent secrecy, and I got a little lucky here. The dread did wind up going into the dread wound up going into the Season of Vision, so I don't need to worry about that. I believe the Forgotten Chronicle, so I think that's the Secret Histories if I go through the Painted River. Yep, another Forbidden Epic. There's a great chamber in the Mansis through which a painted river flows. The vagabond, it is claimed, painted it from memory in the years before she left the house. Certainly there are histories concealed in its design. I traced them with my hand last night. There were fragments of aquamarine paint beneath my nails, flecks of gold leaf when I was done. Okay, so Spider's Door here. Use the prisoner. The spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks and threads and spills through the skin of the world, and the door drinks it, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. And the Catalogue of Uncharted Pleasures, birth occurs at the conjunction of pleasure and torment, so the first forbidden acts of the forge birthed the sparks of delight, which took root in the glory or in nowhere, who can say? So the seeds of the flower maker were planted, though for long years he was nothing but an unfulfilled ache. And we already have the formula voluptuous, but this, of course, would have gotten us... Oh, actually, sorry, we've not yet done the Grail Iskar. That's going to be one that's a little trickier for me to deal with, but we'll get a handle on that later. Okay, The Book of Thrones, a legend of the Shadowless Empire, transcribed by Alexander Peterhans from the Annals of a Secret Shrine in Anatolia. In the first and greatest history, a subject of the Shadowless Empire of Persia travels to the west, to the kingdom of the Persids. There he becomes a protege of the tutelary Persid deity, the Scarred Man, who lives in the dark. He returns after 7 years to put his skills at the service of the Shadowless Empire, becoming their golden general. Some of you may know, I think I found this out in the last playthrough, but some of you will know the figure that this is describing. So I'm kind of expecting that the Season of Suspicion is going to have just produce an evidence against us, but in this case we've just used our followers to get rid of the evidence. So their bewilderment is our opportunity. We'll pass the silent secrecy, and we're on to the worms in the world. In the House of the Sun, the dance of the angels of glory does not cease. Those who are cast down, wave, or wound, or snow are gone from this house, and as long as their parts in the dance are filled, they may never return. Therefore, let us join hands and add our little steps to the dance. So, I'm actually going to try a Moth Sermon this time around, because it did occur to me that maybe generating a restlessness might help me with this upcoming fascination. The congregation is already in a state of excitement. Any secret knowledge will almost certainly drive them to exaltation. So again, part of what I'm doing here is just running out the time so that I can get all these books read. The level 10 lore that I require will be Knock, Winter, and Forge. And Forge I do actually have a way of getting through leveling up. It's just slightly less efficient than following through on the text. So I do want to work with the text that I have already. It would be nice if I could get a few more expeditions sort of ready to go, but in this case here, just the amount of time that it will take me to prepare those expeditions is more trouble than currently reading the works are. So in this case here, part of this is really just a matter of running through the minutes to either translate or read the works that I've already got. My minion has returned, half-conscious, bleeding badly. It seems a rival suitor took exception to their efforts. Heal a fallen follower with talk. So that doesn't always happen. Compassion or convenience? Definitely convenience. Perhaps now they'll survive, but there are limits to what the human body can sustain. We are almost certainly strong enough in Moth to be secure against the curse. So in some ways I would actually prefer it if they get notoriety right away, because that'll give me the option of even more painting, but we'll see how it turns out. And our devotion has drawn comment, so there's another notoriety for me. Okay, so we're back in the spider door again. I think I'm going to continue on with the kind of the pattern that I had before. Just writing down the results. I'm going to keep focusing on the Mallory where I can, and then we'll see what the results are. Okay. Last night in the Mansis I visited the Mallory, from whose impulses and rotations one does not emerge unchanged. There are many radiances there, from the fires in the forge and her names and her instruments, but one radiance lingers behind them all like a fading music, the last light of the sun in splendor, shed in the moments before his division, here where the forge is strongest. Now I have awoken, I see that radiance still. So this is the same level 10 lantern that we had before. Well, now we don't have another body because of Saliba didn't quite do the job. So we will go back through the stag door in this case. And as for the Book of Thrones, after many years of peace, the heirs of the Persids move against the King of Kings in the Shadowless Empire. The Golden General will not take arms against the blood of his mentor until the King of Kings whispers a great secret of betrayal in his ear. He breaks his sword, forswears his oath to both Empire and the Scarred Man, and enters the temple behind the world, leaving his life behind. So here we've got an Unresolved Ambiguity, which is good for us because this is the next level of secret histories that we need. And we did also get the Lionsmith's names, which we've already got the Lockscar for. But Unresolved Ambiguity is helpful for us. That's going to be one of the first for our next batch of expeditions. Moving on, the Twin Serpent Tantra. Just before the outbreak of the Great War, Alexander Sparrow, almost certainly a pseudonym, published leaflets claiming the influence of snake princes on world affairs. The text, called the Twin Serpent Tantra, was his primary inspiration. The Tantra describes great hooded princes, a dynasty of princes of unclear origin, engaging in prayers, sacrifices, and poetry in honor of the Key Serpent, the Crossroads Twins, and the Mirror Queen. Nagai encircles, Nagai arises from wounds, Nagai spares those who are already harmed. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I'm saying if that means anything. No fascination drives your visions. It's over for now. So I do need to keep the dream slot open to be able to deal with the consciousness of radiance when it expires. At last, their fervor is spent. What have they made of this night? Fervor and Lord together will almost always cause us exaltation, but it will use up the fervor. I think we're probably just going to do the same trick again. In this case, I do need something to deal with the Blaze of Radiance. So, Passion, Centipede, Testament, we don't have any fervor to work with. I could try combining these again. Yeah, I mean, now I can't, but I think at some point we need to deal with the problem in front of us. The wound is healed, but this one came very close to death. Silence has touched them like snow. A sufficiently persuasive disciple can probably lure a susceptible companion back to us. Our power was stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. This is good because I actually tend to find the curses quite difficult to deal with. The congregation has donated generously, and they haven't limited those donations to the collection plate. Now, we don't have an admirer, so we will just get a free contentment out of this. And we have a season of ambitions coming up, so that will mean restlessness before too long. Let's just keep the subtle rupture. In my sleep, I ran my fingers along the ridged edges of the stag door's scars. Our company it was that shattered it, Gearby says suddenly. Before the gods who were flesh, the Mansis was forbidden to mortals. We were the first no. He begins again to weep his molten tears. I wish that we had not. I wish that I had died in the world. I've forgotten what else he said, but I remember the shape of the fissures in the stag door, and for all of today, doors will fear my touch. And for the Twin Serpent Tantra, the great hooded princes are described as having escaped from the history of their death to a history where they yet live. The text claims that there are now 108 of them, but in one of many instances of twinnedness, before they crossed from their death chronicle, there were only 54. So we've got a Menace Invocation. Now this is particularly good for us because it's the next level up, and we have enough materials to sort of be able to push this to level 10 if I need. And then we've got the Rite of the Mother's Mercy, but we already had that before. So when the moon's face was wounded, these words appeared. That's the Menace Invocation. So I am a little curious. I can't recall if the intensity of radiance is permitted. No, it has to be one of the lower level ones. Fair enough. So in this case, I want to get rid of the fascination with fleeting reminiscence. Again, I'm going to need to try and find a way to get rid of the intensity of radiance as well, but I'll handle that later. I am safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. I wasn't expecting that outcome, to be honest, but I'm happy for it. Moving on, we'll now do the Furious Tantra. As later transcribed by the medium and pyrotechnician Jacob Oliver Top Mugglestone, tradition has it that he found it seared in the bark of an oak by lightning. This Tantra describes the uses and dangers of anger. It cautions that anger does not always survive transformations. Glory demands truth. When we are clad in lies, then it shall burn them from us. So we did get the fervor from that. Let's just move on to another sermon. Now, one thing that's worth remembering is because we have the Season of Ambitions coming up anyway, we don't really need to worry as much about getting the restlessness. So in this case here, I might consider doing other sermons. I think I'll just try one with Grail just so that I can see the text again. But in general, I would prefer the heart for the simple reason that it gives me a potential vitality, which is helpful if there's something like a season of sickness that comes up. Nope. The congregation is already in a state of excitement. Any secret knowledge will almost certainly drive them to exaltation. In the striped tent, coiling tetralogies behind smeared and murky glass. In the grey tent, dripping fog that nuzzles us like a hunting cat. Fog rank as an animal. In the black and starred tent, wonderful meshes of ori and sculptures spangled with costume gems. In the red tent, the waxen priest in the glass coffin, and the books clasped to his chest. I should read the titles for these as well. This is after the circus. In the red tent, a madness of paper. The circus folk have pasted diagram-crowded paper to every surface, the anatomies of time, the dissections of old weather. The place stinks of nowhere. We should burn it when we leave. A trestle table holds an unceremonious muddle of trophies and keepsakes. So, thank you, Sylvia. Got some erudition for my trouble, as well as another notoriety. Now, most of this notoriety is expiring, so I'm not too worried about that. Thank you, Percussagant. We've got a jumble, so that's basically headed to Oriflammes when the time comes. We've got the Ivory Book, which is something that I can translate. We've got Sunset Passages, also something I can translate. Gartside Sanskrit Reader. Now, we already have Sanskrit. We've had that for a while, so I am happy to sell that off. We've got a Writhing Call, so this is a pretty powerful Grail ingredient. Lay your hand on these tattered folds and feel their warmth. Leave your hand upon it, and it will explore the possibilities of embrace. And we have, excuse me, A True and Accurate History of the Shadowless Kings, Isaac of Karth's work, which I believe we have read before, but that's true for a lot of books. We're still getting material out of them. So, if I want, I can go straight to Foxlily Meadows, oh yeah, that's right, sorry, the raw profit doesn't need to be used because we don't have any evidence after us. So in this case, yes, we will extend the life. Sorry, there's actually one other thing that I would consider doing, which is trying to resummon the raw profit with the intensity of radiance. That just consumes the intensity of radiance and potentially gives me another raw profit. But in this case here, I'm just going to move on to Foxlily Meadows. Especially because we're, again, getting the restlessness, which will probably let me deal with the radiance. Foxlily Meadows. The path through the mountains to the high meadow will be hard. The peasants of the mountains will seek to, drive us away. If we return home safe, we may struggle to shake off the visions of this place. And Season of Despair, so this means that the strategy of using the restlessness to get rid of the lantern probably won't work. My minion is returned, attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. A full moon appears, creatures are reborn, and even a lizard should not be slain, for it could be you. So you've got an operation of the labite, which I think we had before, but we had used to upgrade, so we're rebuilding our collection a little bit. But we've got the rite of rebel striving, which is not something we had before. This rite enacts a teaching of the Forge of Days. The artisan may achieve their highest goal only by destroying their most precious tool. The lionsmith knew this when he shattered his sword before the colonel, so my assistant must destroy a chosen instrument. And just as a reminder, it wasn't this one, it was the work that we had just read before, the one that gave us the secret histories. There was a direct reference to someone who had destroyed their weapon. And that was the lionsmith. All right. On to The Burning Woman, a transcription of the play by Menander, the victor, possibly the dramatist of that name, into Frisian, with commentaries. Of course, we've already translated it out of Frisian, so. The play describes a pilgrimage of smiths and adepts following the trail of the burning woman, who has appeared in all their dreams and given each a wound and a word. So I should actually probably reorganize the text a little bit. So we'll move the winter ahead of the edge. It's a little tricky to remember which ones I got from which expedition, but I'll settle with these. At last their fervor is spent. What have they made of this night? Oh, did I not have the text for the... I thought I had the text for the Grail Sermon. We could do another. At some point I'd like to do a passion painting, but for now I'm content to just get a little extra money. I will speak to their souls, and if I speak with conviction, their souls may answer me. And let's go back through the spider's door. In my dreams I know the path through the silken sands to the spider's door. If I slake its thirst by spilling fresh blood before I sleep, it will open for me. The spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks and threads and spills through the skin of the world, and the door drinks it, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. Also, I should be using my talk verb more than I am, so we'll send Salib out again. I know they were wounded, but it's helpful for getting us bodies for the door. Now, this may be, actually, this is probably a very good argument for painting. Expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I can add funds now, or I could send another follower. So the high passes are actually going to be a bit of a challenge for us because we do not have a Callagine, we have a Raw Prophet. Then there's the Watchers. Now this is something that's fairly straightforward. We either add Edge for the Percussagant or we add Moth for the Raw Prophet. And in this case, Heart or Winter for the Fifth Eye Curse. So generally, so this would normally be a situation where I had a Heart follower because I've already got the Percussagant, but I need to get past the mountains as well. So in this case, I think I'm actually going to add Violet and Eau Claire. That's not the only option available to me. I do have other ways of going through this expedition, but this is the path I'm working with for now. Madrigard is strong in winter. Probably she will keep us from avalanches. Well, let's not make that a probably. Let's make that closer to certainty. The hour called the Madrigard is at home in the cold. She will almost certainly keep us from falling. Our souls dwell each in the house, which is our flesh. Our senses are the windows, and each sense has its attendant appetites. To leave the appetites unsatisfied is to leave the windows uncared for, and who would choose to live in a house with filthy windows? So I have actually read this one before. All right, so I need to do something about this restlessness. Now, under normal circumstances, I would want to do... Oh yeah, actually, in 2.8 seconds, I can get my painting. So that means that the fervor is unattended, but we'll be able to deal with that in a moment. So Fascination is a little inconvenient, but it's a Season of Suspicion coming up, so it's not as dangerous as it would be under normal circumstances. So we will take our 4 Passion to do try and get rid of the staleness, and we're doing a mood pace with our restlessness. And we're getting close to the end of our time, but let's see if I can run past a few of these different events to get through it all. Okay, Pounding Airs, that's the heart influence. And I don't have Season of Sickness coming up, so it's not as useful to me. So Blaze of Radiance and an Unresolved Ambiguity. So that's the second of those. Last night in the Mansis I visited the Mallory, from whose hammers and crucibles one does not emerge unchanged, and for 9 beats my heart ceased while it entered the fires of the forge, and the passions of the forge entered into it. I woke with the dawn, and its poor divided colours inspire memories of the forge's passion for the sun, of the vagabond's curse, of the Grail's deep longing. So many half-memories. I think we will call it there. Oh, we got Fascination from the Burning Woman, so that's going to be something for me to contend with a little bit later. So under normal circumstances, I would have preferred to use the restlessness and the dread resulting from that to tranquilize the fascination. What's going to happen next is in 41 seconds, unless we wind up generating dread through another means, what'll happen is we'll get a fleeting reminiscence, so we'll use the dream slot with the more recent of the 2 fascination, this one, to get rid of it. If we wind up in a situation where a Season of Visions is kind of coming to hit us right away, under normal circumstances I would try and bring one of these pawns up. I might be able to do that now that I have the Menace Invocation. But it may be that we get hit by it, and I need to find another way of generating a dread or a fleeting reminiscence. But we'll see what happens when we get to it. The Smiths and Adepts give up on finding the Burning Woman and resolve to build their own kingdom, where our strength will be sufficient to shatter the world. And we do have the Formula Fissive, which is a new level for Forge, and actually that's a lock scar that we can get right away. Break a thing and you have fragments. Break those fragments and you have dust. Break the dust and then break what remains. Here is fire. But yes, I do mean it when I say that I gotta wrap it up. So thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have been enjoying this series and have not yet done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have enjoyed the episode, I would love it if you would leave a like and possibly even a comment. The likes and the comments help me get noticed in terms of these videos. And then when you leave the when you leave the comments, it's just nice to be able to interact with you. I do also use things like the likes and the view numbers to try and get an idea of what people enjoy, but usually, you can just let me know directly, and then I don't need to make any assumptions. I am going to be back on Wednesday. I will see you all then. Have a good evening.